Narcissist Ensnared. Episode 13. Wynne had not returned to the city after his afternoon with Ashley. He had a feeling that something bad was going to happen, and he had to be nearby for her. Worried about her, he had driven away, intending to head home, but then decided that he would be happier if he was somewhere in the village in case she needed him. Something just did not feel right. He had turned around after 20 minutes of driving and headed back. When he passed Ashley's house on the lane, he looked across, and he could see that Peter's car was indeed on the driveway. Wynne halted a little distance up the road and positioned himself so that he could see the entrance to the road which led to Ashley's house in his rear view mirror. Wynne contemplated getting out of the car and walking around to the house, knocking on the door and confronting Peter. However, he realized that the children might still be awake, and he didn't want them to witness any confrontation. That would not be fair, and tempting as it was to confront Peter about his behaviour, he did not want the children witnessing what might occur, as indeed tempers would likely be frayed. Instead, he decided that he would wait until Peter had gone, and then he would check on Ashley thereafter, to find out if anything had happened in the meanwhile, and of course, if something occurred and she called him and was in a position whereby she was frightened or it was dangerous, then he was just around the corner and he would be immediately able to go and help her. He felt happier, if not entirely happy, about doing this. He would have much preferred to have confronted Peter, to put the allegations of abuse and misbehaviour to him, to find out what this odious man had to say for himself. Indeed, Wynne was tempted to want to go in and headbutt him, knock him to the floor and give him a good kicking. But he realized that an individual such as Peter would only try and use it against him and have him arrested, and he didn't want to be pulled away from Ashley by such behaviours, and therefore opted to keep his temper in check and remain observing from his car. Wynne had sat for nearly 3 hours. He had called a couple of his friends, just engaging in conversation with them, finding out what they had been up to. He made a call to his brother, asking him how he had been, catching up, talking about the weekend's football, as he sat, speaking into the phone, eyes fixed upon his rear-view mirror to see what was happening. After 3 hours had gone, he finally saw Peter's car pull out of the junction and turn right. He waited and watched as it drove down the road and then turned left out of sight. Wynne dialed the landline to Ashley's house. "Hello," answered Ashley. "Hi, it's me," said Wynne. "I know. I saw your number on the caller display. Where are you?" "Just around the corner." "Oh, come in. Come in then. Come around the back as I've locked up the front door." "Okay." Wynne exited his car. It seemed as if Ashley actually knew that he was there. She asked straight away where he was, not how he was or what he was doing, but where he was. She sounded all right, and hopefully all that had happened was that Peter had been talking to her for the last 3 hours or so, boring her. He made his way down the side of the house and across the back lawn, which was now covered with frost. He could see the expansive living area through the blinds, all lit up by the various lamps dotted around the room. Wynne opened the door and stepped inside, just as Ashley entered the kitchen area from the hallway. She was dressed in shorts and a grey t-shirt, which made reference to the year of her birth being a vintage year. "Hi, all right?" she asked, as she stepped down into the living area. "Yes, are you?" he asked. "Yes, I'm fine." How come you stopped in the village? I said you didn't need to. I was concerned at what Peter might do. I didn't like the sound of the threats that he made earlier on, explained Wynne. Well, you were right to. What do you mean? He said he was coming back to claim what belonged to him one last time. What's that supposed to mean? Asked Wynne. You know, he wanted to have me. Yes, but that didn't happen, did it? Ashley stood silent. Ashley, tell me what has happened, demanded Wynne. He had me. Had you? You mean he had sex with you? Yes. Jesus Christ, how? I mean, did you let him? No, of course not. So he forced himself on you? Yes. Fucking hell, Ashley, that's rape, declared Wynne. Technically, I suppose it is, she replied, her voice low and non-committal. Technical or not, he has just raped you. I'm calling the police, said Wynne, and he pulled his phone from his jacket pocket. No, don't do that, said Ashley, her voice rising. I have to. You've been raped. But he's my husband. What fucking difference does that make? It's still illegal for a husband to rape his wife, you know. The law changed quite a while in that regard. Ashley marched over to Wynne and pulled the phone from his hand. Please, don't call the police. It's nothing. Nothing? Nothing? What on earth are you talking about? He's raped you. It happens. I'm used to it. Well, I'm not. Give me my phone, please. Ashley held on to it. If you call them, I will deny anything has happened, she said. Why? I don't want to have to put Amelia through it. But you have to suffer, though. I told you, I'm used to it. I don't care if you're used to it. He's abusing you in the vilest method possible. You're with me now. Oh, get over it. I have. Get over it. Get over it. Jesus, Ashley, I don't believe what I'm hearing. Look, at least tell me what has happened. Please, please, sit down. He took the phone from her and steeled her to the settee. He sat beside her. Wynne found that she seemed oddly calm, considering what had happened. Okay. I appreciate this isn't pleasant, and I've no desire to make this worse for you than it already is, but I have to know exactly what happened. He came around as planned and brought the kids back. He asked if he could stay and have something to eat with them. I thought that perhaps he was being more amenable, so I agreed. Wynne nodded. I then put Christopher to bed, and he just hung around, not saying much and watching television. To be honest, I was just glad he wasn't giving me a hard time. That makes sense, said Wynne. So, about 8:30, he suggested Amelia should go to bed. I take her up and sit with her for a while. About 10 minutes later, he puts his head around the door and tells her to go to sleep and tells me to come with him. He then points for me to go in the bedroom. I sort of knew what was coming. Then why did you not refuse to go in? Asked Wynne. What's the point? The point is, you might have been able to stop what happened. He then told me to undress and said he had to have me one last time and that he would leave me alone after this. I kind of thought that it was worth doing if he would leave me alone. Hang on. So, did you agree to sleep with him? Well, not exactly. You need to be clear about this, Ashley. Did he force you to have sex with him? She hesitated. I'm sorry to question you like this, but I need to understand what has gone on here. It's not making sense. Yes, he forced himself on me. Didn't you try and fight him off? No, Amelia would have heard the noise. I thought I'd better just let him get on with it and finish, and then he'd leave. You know, he said a strange thing to me when he was doing it. What was that? He made me look into his eyes, and then he said he wanted to see if you were still in my eyes. That's just odd, isn't it? I still don't understand why you went along with it, though. You're with me now, and surely that means something so that you wouldn't want him near you. You could have at least tried to fight him off and then called the police and called me. As I've said, I'm used to it. I just thought that if he had his way with me, even though I didn't want to, that would be it. He said it was him saying goodbye. By raping you. I suppose it fits with his usual style, sneered Wynne. Are you cross with me? She asked. God, no, no. It's all right. You can be if you want to. I'm not. I'm not him, remember? I still think, though, we should call the police. Even if you don't pursue it, the shock of getting arrested just might send him a signal. No, it's done and it's over. I don't want the police involved. You see, he does these things to us. Us? Yes, me and Amelia. Ashley stared at the floor. Wynne didn't like where this seemed to be going. What are you saying, Ashley? Asked Wynne. She remained silent. Has he touched Amelia? Ashley looked at him. Her gaze was empty, and he peered at her, trying to garner some kind of indication from her. He couldn't read her expression. Surely this monster hadn't abused his own daughter. Ashley, has he touched Amelia? Her eyes flicked to the floor, and then back to him. She then shook her head. Wynne let out a sigh of relief. He couldn't bear to think of Amelia suffering as well. He looked at Ashley, but her expression was such that he wondered if she was actually telling him the truth. He didn't, however, want to pursue that line of questioning. It was too grim to consider further. Right, said Wynne, standing up. If you are not going to involve the police, then I am going to administer some justice. Where is his sister's house? Prosley. You aren't going over there, are you? Damn right I am. I'm going to give him a good kicking for what he's done. Don't, Ian. You'll only end up in trouble with the police if you do that. And how does that help us? He won't involve the police, as he knows what he's done. He'll worry that if I know, the police might come for him and arrest him for raping you, so he'll have to take the hiding, do you see? No, he'll call the police. He's a coward. He won't think he has raped me. He will think he was entitled to sleep with me. I don't fucking care. The man's a total cunt, and I'm sick of him abusing you and having you live in terror. It stops, and it stops now. You need to change the locks so he can't just breeze in here. I will organise that if you want. I'm not happy with you being here on your own with 2 young children and that predator at large, said Wynne, his anger rising. Ashley smiled, delighted to see this reaction in Wynne. You truly are my white knight, aren't you? She smiled, and put her hands around his neck, planting a kiss on his lips. Wynne couldn't help but wonder if those lips had recently been placed against Peter's thin lips, and if that had been done willingly. I'm just a decent man who hates bullies, that's all, answered Wynne. Come and make love to me, whispered Ashley in his ear, please. He reached up and removed her hands from around his neck. He kept hold of them as he looked straight at her. I love you, and for that reason I am not going to make love to you. She pulled her hands away sharply from his. Why not? I want you. Because the last thing that you need right now is sex. Holding? Yes. Caring for? Absolutely. Wynne was also conscious that Ashley might be trying to contaminate any evidence by going to bed with him also. Don't let the fact he has been inside me put you off, she said. It never has in the past. That was different. You told me you hardly slept with him, and that was while we were having an affair. I had to accept that you might sleep with him still. I had to deal with that. This is different. Your marriage is over, and you are now in a relationship with me. Yes, I am. Will you stay here tonight, please? I would feel safer. Yes, of course I will. Wynne had made them both a drink, and then they sat and watched television for an hour or so. Wynne found it strange that Ashley seemed relaxed and acted as if nothing had happened earlier. She seemed almost oblivious to the fact that she had been raped. Wynne kept trying to get her to involve the police, but she repeatedly resisted. Eventually she declared that she was going to bed, and Wynne made himself comfortable on the large settee. Unfortunately, he could not settle, as the horrendous action of Peter whirred around in his mind. He felt bad for thinking it, but he could not handle the fact that Ashley had in effect been unfaithful to him. He kept telling himself that she had been raped and therefore she had no choice in the matter. But he found her account of what had happened, one where she seemed to offer no resistance, odd. He thought she would have hit him or bit him or done something to fend him off. Instead, she had done nothing, and whilst of course not agreeing to what he did, she didn't put up any resistance. He couldn't understand that. He tried to work it out. Maybe she was still caught in Peter's spell. Perhaps that was what years of sexual abuse did to you. He was no expert. He didn't have the answer. What he did know was that he was churned up inside and was wanting to exact some pain on that bastard. Wynne sat up and slipped on his boots. He laced them up and then went to the front door. He tried the handle, but it was locked. He slid the bolts back and looked around for a key to open the deadlock, but there was none to hand. He shook the door in frustration. He moved to the back door, only to find that locked also, and Ashley had removed the key. He padded backwards and forth, unable to make his mind up as to what he should do. He was too alert to sleep, too angry and upset. He knew that attacking Peter would invite more trouble, but it was about time that someone struck out at him. He wanted to get to Peter. "What are you doing, Ian?" Ashley had appeared in the doorway of the kitchen, no doubt disturbed by his movement. "I'm going to sort him out," growled Wynne, and he pulled a knife from the block on the worktop beside him. "I see." "I am. I'm sick of him." Ashley passed him the key for the side door. "Well, lock up after you and post it through the letterbox. I'm going back to bed," she said. Her manner was so matter-of-fact that she might have been giving directions. Wynne took the key, and she turned and walked away. Wynne was taken aback by just how relaxed she seemed about the fact that he was stood there, ready to leave and with a large kitchen knife in his hand. Did she really want him to stab Peter? Wynne looked at the knife and the key in his hands, and then moved towards the back door, slipping the key into the lock, turning it, and opening the back door as the cold of the night fell upon his face. He stood on the threshold, ready to exact justice on behalf of Ashley.